Okay. Hi, everyone. I hope it's not very loud. I need to understand how to speak. So first of all, huge surname, almost unpronounceable. So we can stay with Alena. And yeah, I hope you can check. So first of all, regarding the quality culture, why QAs on a conference would decide to somebody to prepare, somebody to attend the talk about quality culture? Simply, as my opinion, seems like because we are the first one to see the result. QAs are often the ones who see the result of requirements, communication, development, deployment, testing, and at the end of the day, we're first role who sees everything at the end. And basically, we see the problem. We're always the ones who understand, okay, we had bad requirements here, and as a follow-up, we have had some issues with the test data or environments and so on. So basically, quality culture, or if our company cares about the quality overall, is our problem because we see the results. A few words about myself. Of course, Claudia presented me. A few words. I'm currently QA manager. I have background in automation. I'm automation engineer, automation test lead in past. Currently, I have like some certifications as mentioned. Currently, I'm also a student of MBA on the IT direction. So we'll start. That was my reference when on the previous role, I've been creating this quality culture. So this is some traffic. We have roads, traffic lights, cars, the whole infrastructure, and everybody knows what to do. And we have everything aligned. You do not see buildings on the roads. You do not see cranes on the roads. Everything is exactly as supposed to be in the best way. It's dedicated to efficiency, safety, and so on. And if, for example, in a right-sided country, I will decide to go on the left side, what will happen? So first of all, my car will be broken. Then I will say goodbye to my driver license, but everybody will continue to do exactly what's supposed to do. Everybody knows what to do. Each parent, by the way, teaches kids how to take part in this culture, driving culture. And it will live like for years. There are police, there are some structures that take care of the roads, there are lightings, everything is dedicated. So I wanted to have something like this in a company for everything to be that clear. Overall, our driving culture, if we talk about the cars, that will be just for the reference, our reference is that everybody cares about the safety, like I want it to be about the quality. We know rules. We have historical reasons why these rules exist. Simply, we know why we should stop before the pedestrian, because we know what will happen with the pedestrian if we will not stop. We have information about the state on the road, those signs, maybe applications with navigations and so on. We have clear rules, and we teach our new joiners. So that became my problem on one of the past companies when I had some problem to solve. The problem was next. Pretty much regular software development. We had pretty much standard problems. We had violations of the processes, of the practices, and no responsibility for that. We had QAs, developers, leads, managers, knowing that we have bugs, knowing that we're not in the best shape, and pretty much okay with that. We had QAs at the end of the cycle, and our stakeholders, clients, were not absolutely happy about the quality itself. What I wanted to have, and I've got the task from my direct engineer manager to basically build it the opposite. I wanted to have the process that is oriented to the quality. I wanted everybody to understand and to be dedicated to that quality, and the QA to start at the beginning. So what I started from, first of all, there was Dr. Deming who stated that 94% of all of the issues, all of the problems and troubles do not come from people, do not come from tools, they come from the process. There is no point to hire, to fire, to change toolings if the process itself is broken. Second thing that I was basing off is my favorite Lean. Lean is basically for the manufacturing. It comes from the cars, but in IT it is pretty much practical, and I would love it if it would be more popular than it is right now. There is a concept named pokayoki, which is pretty much saying we protect our process, something, from mistakes from the very beginning. And one of the wonderful examples is USB. We have now USB Type-C, which is a pure implementation of the pokayoki. Even a kid, even in the darkness, with closed eyes, can plug in the cable. Previously, having USB Type-A, we had interesting experiments. We needed to try to put it, we could mistake and so on, we could damage the port. So Lean says that this concept should be applied, and it's applicable. We do not basically allow in some place to make a mistake. So the base was that we need to define something, some process, some rules, behaviors that will not allow to make a mistake in this place, to protect people. Why quality culture? Why I would not say like testing process, quality assurance, or something like this? Because I was reading many books, professionals, about quality, and in one of the books I've spotted this phrase like quality culture, and started to learn what culture is, and there is the whole science named culturology about what's culture and so on. So culture is the set of our assumptions that is learned because it solves our problems somehow, and it is well enough, then we consider it valid. Each company, each project where you work, all of you, you have some quality culture. And the question is it well enough for you? So I wanted to improve it, and the quality, if you will Google like what's quality culture or just culture is consistent of, there will be some different, representations, but in general, I gathered it in this, flower-like diagram. So on top there will be flower, there will be values, because we need to understand what are we building. Then there will be leadership support, because we cannot change anything without our managers. Managers are our protection, they are our budget, they are our permissions, they are our force, we need them. Then we need to define some behaviors, how we will be doing it, artifacts, it's everything practically created, code, test cases, requirements, everything. Then we need heroes, and something tells me that you guys can be those heroes, because it will be like you who will bring it, who will push this, and the knowledge. It's just like with our stakeholders, with our new joiners, when we teach our kids how to cross the road, we need to teach and educate. Because one interesting point, I have never seen engineer and manager coming from QA. We think that everybody knows. Everybody in the test conference is aware what regression is, but you have no idea how many technical leads are not aware about the simplest points. And it's not bad. Basically, they have different job, but the knowledge has to be, more like become more popular, because our leads, our managers are not aware sometimes of how to do some actions. Practically, we need to start from values. Yes, it will be not the best, part. Maybe it will be a bit boring. Maybe it will be a bit, looking like we fill some table. But the point is not to fill the table. The point is that we need to talk to our stakeholders. It will be developers, QAs, POs, engineering managers, maybe customers if you have access to, and maybe regulators and so on and so on. You go to them and ask what quality is. We want to improve something, right? We want to, as QA person, have a better quality. What's that? And all of them will give different answers. Of course, developers and QAs will be given answers about functional requirements, but managers will be talking about risks, about deliveries, and maybe our regulator will be talking about compliance, or maybe there will be some SLA, or maybe so on. I had one example in my past when a pretty much large team was developing an application, and after that discussion, it appeared that one of our, let's say, stakeholders, clients needed another, like, languages, localization issues existed, and nobody knew. And it appeared that it never was on a plate. So the more these discussions will happen, the better. And then interesting point. It looks like a table. You can create a table in a conference, but the problem is not that we sit down and we describe some words in a table. The main idea is that we talk about it. All this quality culture will appear when you will be picking people, creating some possibilities to talk about it. The more you will be doing it, the more of this culture will appear. When you will define with them what do you value, then we can understand if we can measure it. I believe quality is not measurable. Quality itself, no metrics, nothing can measure quality. But what we can measure, if we are going at least in a correct direction. So this step exists. It's not, something that everybody likes to do, but we need to have these sessions, which is each group, and to define with our stakeholders what's that via these quality talks. We will define our values, prioritize them, set as goals, and then it is possible to set up as some metrics, if somebody likes metrics, as SMART goals, and so on. Performance, SLA, and some stability, maybe functional requirements, and so on, can be measured. So the most complicated part will be to gather these values. The rest practically will be more interesting, because then we start from our managers and our leaders, and we need to engage them. Leaders talk on a language of values, of deliverables, of budgets, of the time, and so on and so on. We need them to start to take care about the quality. How? Quality has to become a value. Then what they value? They value information. If we need our managers to take care about the quality, what we need to do to provide information non-stop. Even our ISTQB said that the goal of the testing is not to find the bugs, it's to provide information. So what we start to do, we start to generate data. Our managers, our leaders, they make decisions non-stop, and then they need more and more data. One of the most interesting ones that I found is a risk. So what we can do, you can usually spot QAs who report a bug, but bug is a risk that came to life. What we can do, we can, in our ADO or Jira, what you use, create a custom item, risk, and start to populate it with, seems to me that we are running out of time, we have bad requirements, we have some architectural issues, design here can lead to the problem, maybe some performance issues. Then you talk to developers. And then all together with developers, maybe on some meetings, maybe as a follow-up, you define something. These risks items are very much needed. And the longer you gather them, the better. We can attach them, we can collect them and use for learnings. We can use them for our same talks about, quality, for our retrospectives. And also we can use it, for example, to track if our automation covers risks. We can track if we find bugs against them, and we can provide this data to our managers. From my perspective, when I've seen these sessions, it's okay to do it at least one per month, just to provide them, maybe some dashboard or maybe some list of those items, and to say, see, we've seen some examples where it might fail, and it failed in these places. Then trust me, the interest to the QA department grows quickly, because we do not just state like post-mortem, it died. We just show that we are able to prevent something, we are able to find issues earlier. If your Jira or ADO allows, or maybe you need to find some add-ons, it is possible to present it like this, some visuals, because maybe you just have no possibility to talk to your managers sometimes, to some engineering leaders. You can just send it like, for example, in some email information about, see, we have for this release, we have that situation for this product, and so on and so on. That comes from Jira. We can show information about the scores, the heat maps, and so on. We can do something similar in ADO. They have different visuals, but still the idea is we provide information also in a way of the burn down. If our actions lead to risks decreasing, that's one of the interesting points, and our managers love such discussions. Next point is about releases. Once again, on example of the Jira or ADO item. When I say it like we will create risk or we will create release item, it's not about bureaucracy. It's not about, oh, we will have additional item in Jira. It's not about that. Each time when we do it, the point is we will talk about it. It's not the point to have bureaucracy or corporate style or to work like a bank. It's about, you can do it in a small company, you can do it in a startup. The biggest point is that once you will do it, this routine, you will create data for talks, for analysis. And a lot of the changes will happen even without you pushing for those changes. They will happen kind of by themselves, because people who make decisions will see data. They're often blind a bit because don't see it. Releases, we can attach the same risks to each release. We can attach our results of the tests and so on. Also, we can track decisions. That's wonderful part. Just imagine some Jira item. Let's imagine it names release 1.1. And then in a comment section, each time when somebody says, oh, skip it on test, you just say, oh, please leave a comment. And then next time, for example, you hear, we will not need it. You say, oh, could you please leave a message there in a comment section? And then in some time, when maybe in a month, in a year, when you have a collection of these items, you come back to those, you know where the problem happened, and you see why. It's powerful. I mean, the more you will have them, the better. And bugs. It's not about checking bugs, it's about clinics. So bugs are data. And we use bugs not to show that we have 5 bugs, but we show if we have more, less, and we use them for the clinics. Clinics is an interesting part of the quality culture. It's when you sit down with developers and you discuss why it happened. So, for example, each time per week, each time per sprint, each time per month, up to you. You take the most interesting ones, not trivial, and you discuss, but developers talk, not you. And developers say, oh, it seems like it happened because and because. And we describe it, and then everybody learns. Not from the first part. Maybe in the beginning, these discussions need to be a bit motivated, a bit, it will be less energetic, but still, clinics are very valuable, and especially for the new joiners. They learn a lot. About bugs. Data should be presented to our managers, our stakeholders. This one is it names 2-dimensional filter. In Jira, it is by default, it exists there. And as per my understanding, it's one of the most interesting parts that we can do with bugs. We can track them against. We can track them against components, against risks, against some parts of the system, against whatever. So this helps to see if amount of the bugs, if amount of the issues that happened on different stages maybe has some correlation with our actions, our decisions. So talking about the quality-oriented culture in a company, we took information from stakeholders about what they need. We gave information, and once again, stakeholders is not like managers, it's everybody, QAs, developers, everybody. We give information in a way of risks, releases, statistics. And then we need to define who is doing what. I believe that is quality assurance, because that's exactly the moment when we do. We test, we create frameworks, we build automation, we define how we will be testing it. So here on this step, we need to automate and to use this Pokayoki. We need to make everything for actions to be protected from mistakes. We will be using some shift testing left and so on. Everybody here knows how to test. So we need to make sure that these actions will be clear for everybody. And we will be working with artifacts, because when we work, we generate something, codes, cases, and so on. So let's see how. There is an interesting point. It names RACI. And once again, the point is not to create a table. The point is to talk. The point is to have some discussion with our colleagues, with our maybe managers, with our developers, and to take some tricky point. The point where you as QAs, you know it fails. And you know it very well because you know your companies. And then you need to define who is doing what in a way of RACI. RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Responsible means I'm doing it if I'm responsible. Accountable means I own the failure or maybe the success. Consulted means we need his knowledge. It's often some person with a unique knowledge. Often it's external. And informed. It's the person who will get email from us, like, for your information. That's something like this. And we will try to automate everything that we will see possible. Where we need a ACI. Environment issue happens. Instance is down, some environment problems. Maybe some performance degradation spotted. And we need to define, usually when performance is going down, we state it post factum, but what we need to do, we need to decide, okay, we see it, who is doing what. If technical leads does something, if maybe developers need to act, if maybe, and practically in your companies, in your teams, often what happens, everybody believes that that's a problem of a neighbor. In order to fix this problem, we need to define clearly where are the borders of our tasks. There's data management, or maybe bugs from production happening. How will we handle it? And so on. It will look when it's created in a similar way. So in every problematic area, in every moment when you know it's not working properly and somebody is not doing their tasks, or maybe we do not understand who's doing what, we need to use this. Once again, it's not bureaucracy. The Confluence page will not fix it all. What will fix is a discussion when we will be doing it. And it will be an interesting point. One of the ways how to make quality, we know this phrase, quality is everyone's responsibility. One of the ways that helped me personally to make it, I had, unfortunately, to create something like this and start to collect information on when we have issues, on which step. It was a bit complicated. So if you do not like these metrics, and if you do not like or you do not have base, it might be complicated. But if you have a base of data and you can't present it, each MT is a mean time. It's a mean time to detect an issue. It's a mean time to identify when you see it's broken. It's a mean time to repair. When you start to measure bugs and issues and problems in time, manager, they become very much motivated about this topic. quality all of a sudden becomes as important as time and the budget and the deliverables, simply because it's not a bug anymore. We don't talk about some performance or something, we talk about time. We can say, what is the time that takes for us to fix it, for our environments to be stable again, and so on and so on. This information, if it's gathered, it makes a quality team responsibility from managers, because they have data and they see where this problem occurs often. So once again, once we did previous steps, we will need heroes. Heroes are QAs who talk about it, developers who will be all of a sudden pushing for some, maybe TDD, maybe it's a meet, maybe not. I mean, some developers maybe will be engaged, maybe some leads. Maybe you will see engineering managers. In my experience, heroes come from different unexpected places. Sometimes they are BAs, POs, sometimes DevOps, who all of a sudden get the idea that the better we do some particular process, the less problems they have. And knowledge. Usually, QAs know about QA. Non-QAs do not know about QA in general. As I said, I've seen examples when I needed to explain and answer questions like, for example, what do you test during regression? And those were senior people. They didn't know what do we test during regression. What's our automated test check? What is the coverage? Not the number, but can we rely on it? And it's wonderful when these discussions happen, and we need to populate this data as much as possible via all possible discussions. Confluence pages will not help. So as per my understanding, bug clinics, I mentioned it, it helps very much. Also, lessons learned. For example, something happens, something very unexpected and not pleasant happens often on production. And then we sit down and without any finger pointing, we just discuss how can we prevent from future similar situations. And we provide data and everything that I mentioned before, these risks, releases, all of a sudden they become our playbook, because we've seen how we work in past and we know what not to repeat in future. Also, as per my understanding, a wonderful part in quality culture is Batmans. Team Batman is the team. Sometimes they are named not that, funny like Batman, but sometimes they have different names. The idea is when something happens, those respond and they rotate each time. For example, each week, or maybe if your application has to be alive and, for example, you have SLA and provide some performance or some stability at night as well. Sometimes those persons need to be responsive at night. Batman usually are QA, developer, and some business person. PO, BA. They respond to the incidents, and those needs to be changed each week, each month. Then everybody, step by step, have this understanding that quality also takes care about the quality. It's their problem as well. And also this popular pretty much community of practice, maybe bug clinics, and 1 day per month as a day to learn something useful for the product. Let's imagine you give a possibility to all of the QAs 1 day per month to learn something that will be useful for the team. Performance, new framework, new library. The same for developers. The same maybe for POs, how to use AI, some prompts, something in order to generate better requirements. With a condition, they share it later. They take this day, they do not go, to holidays, they learn something and then they present this information. And in the company where I work right now, in a company where I've been working previously, it exists and it really works, because when you see that some person takes this day, learns, then comes up and says, I found interesting some new tool that really is, populating a bit this, making this idea more popular about the quality. And last part, about speak up. QAs in general are silent. If you will observe companies in general, QAs in the best way, they talk at the very end saying, well, our application is not good. Well, I told you, something like this. I told you it will fail. I knew it will fail, something like this in this direction. I've rarely seen QAs who've been telling that guys who might have a problem, or QAs who would educate colleagues. QAs who talks about quality, who promotes it, already fixes, because just because of the fact that you make it more popular, more visible, a lot of the issues will be solved. If you just come up to the developer and say, what's written here, let's check out because it might be here, even if he will not fix right away, maybe he will prevent it in the next time. Silent QAs become, as I believe, testers. And they are testing only. QAs who talk, who provide data about the risks, who provide information about the process, they become quality assurance engineers. And the difference is possibility to speak up, possibility to provide this information, and to prevent risks. Yeah, from my side, that's it. Thank you very much.